I'll introduce Jonathan in a minute, but just, again, so thank you to Brian. Brian lives in Texas, spends his time on the plane, as all great Wall Street analysts do, gave us the best tip of all times. You guys come here for private capital, but he's also a great tipster for public capital. Semiconductors 3 years ago was a great call, so thank you. And now travel and online groceries. So travel, we can't help you yet, but online groceries, talk to Anna. Clove.kitchen is the website. Download the app, order your groceries through AI. So AI on Wall Street, now AI on Main Street. Jonathan, please, welcome.
Sure thing.
Jonathan Alferness has been a friend of ours for a couple of decades now. I was lucky to work with him at Google, where he led many of the ads and commerce initiatives. And then he's one of the rare individuals who went from Google, which is a web company essentially back then, to a mobile company, Lyft, and then a social networking company, Pinterest. And then somehow, one of the rare executives in Silicon Valley who ends up going to one of the largest companies in the world that is not in Silicon Valley, Walmart, where he was the chief product officer and just recently left. So the only guy that I know who went from like Google, Lyft, Pinterest, Walmart. And so you've seen a lot. And he's the perfect guy that we thought we could bring here to share his insights on, what's really different between Main Street and Wall Street and Silicon Valley. So before you say anything, let me give you some tailwind here. So I'm not sure how much people know about Walmart, but in the last 5 years, Walmart stock has appreciated 4 times more than Amazon stock. So if you had bought Walmart 5 years ago, you would be doing 4 times better. Is that right, Brian? Pretty much, right? And Walmart is now one of the companies that is over $1 trillion in market cap. So that's Walmart. So Jonathan, you were there for most of those 5 years. What did you do? What did you do there?
Okay, first of all, this is embarrassing, and your preview of our relationship together skewed a little differently than I remember. The way I like to describe Keval, in addition to being a longtime friend, advisor, and partner, is Keval was one of my first bosses at Google. And in fact, I think you were my first boss in product management. And I learned an awful lot from you.
Don't blame me, man.
So let's go back to Walmart for a second. It is, I don't know, from where I stood within the walls of Walmart, I think it's been an incredibly impressive ride for the company. I think if you step back and you looked at where Walmart versus Amazon was, say, 5, 6, 7 years ago, as Keval was putting it, you never would have expected that Walmart would have outpaced Amazon in terms of growth and a lot of the solutions that they're providing for their customers. Brian, you did just a fantastic setup for us for this discussion. I wonder how much of that was actually planned. But really the unlock for Walmart is exactly what Brian was talking about. Yes, it's all of the everyday goods that you might want, but something that Walmart was uniquely positioned to do that Amazon wasn't was deliver groceries from their stores to your homes and be able to do it incredibly, incredibly quickly. Now, Walmart got to this place by almost a happy accident, which was during COVID, there was this massive shutdown and all these stores were shut down. At the time, probably more than 90%, like 95, almost 100% of shopping for groceries at Walmart was done in the stores. With those stores being shut down, if Walmart didn't have another solution, the company would be in really, really bad shape. Walmart works incredibly well under pressure when there's fire to get something done. And that really started the whole ship from store, deliver from store ethos that brought fresh and frozen to people's homes in much the same way that you and I think about that instant delivery that we can get from Amazon. Where I'll be frank, it works particularly well here in San Francisco. It doesn't always work as well in Middle America. And that's the juxtaposition of how Amazon was able to, how Walmart was able to take on Amazon and do so well, to your point.
So let's segue into that. That's a great point. So you build products for the tech advanced customers and then sort of the more mainstream customers. What's the difference between building products for the typical Silicon Valley customer versus the rest of America?
And I think it's a helpful exercise for us all to do and to put ourselves in the shoes of your Main Street customers. Because here we all think about how much technology pervades everything we're doing, even just listening to the conversations and seeing some of the adoption curves. If you flip that and you think about it more from middle America, yes, they do tend to lag behind. Why is that? And bluntly, what I would say is that they're not interested in technology for technology's sake. They want technology that ultimately solves hard problems that they're dealing with on day-to-day businesses. And when that technology disappears into the problem solution itself, into the product itself, then they'll adopt.
So what's an example of that? I mean, Sparky, Brian referenced that, seems like, and by the way, the Walmart management team have been talking about AI consistently over the last 4 or 5 earnings calls. Right. And Sparky has been brought up both as increasing the AOV, but also making efficiency in terms of fulfillment. What were some of the things that you did differently at Walmart in terms of product development that were different from, let's say, the Google experience?
I think again, so let's talk a little bit about the arc of artificial intelligence while I was at Walmart. When we got there, this is about, I don't know, 4 or so years ago, it was clear to those of us here in Silicon Valley that AI was going to be a really big deal. But within the walls of Walmart, it wasn't that understood just yet. My boss, John Furner, who now runs Walmart globally, he got it because he was plugged into folks like yourself. So what we needed to do as a product team was to convince the company that this technology could be used to solve real customer and associate problems. And that's how we got our start. Believe it or not, and I think a lot of you will believe it, when I arrived at Walmart, the entire e-commerce experience based on top of product search was kind of broken. You would search for products that you knew Walmart had, and they just wouldn't show up on the results. You do other searches, and you'd get completely irrelevant results. Fortunately for me, I had run AdWords for a long period of time alongside friends like Cable, and I immediately recognized that what we were doing was keyword search. And so it had all of these weird artifacts. Yet for a company like Walmart to rebuild fundamental product understanding and product search would have taken hundreds of engineers over a long period of time. You can't just flip the bit and go from keyword search to product search in a heartbeat. And then we thought, well, what if we leverage components of large language models? What if we don't take AI and just slap AI at the top of Walmart and say it's going to fix all problems? But what if we decompose the problems that Walmart had with product search and we leverage those components of large language models, other AI technology to actually fix product search? Because then the metrics that we got and the improvement in metrics around searches, conversions, decrease in abandonment rate, massive decrease in support tickets would be something that would show up to the top line of Walmart executives like my boss, John, and we'd go, oh, wow, it looks like we can actually use this technology to improve our core products, to make our customers' lives better, easier, simpler. So we went from things like product search. Then we thought about how we would unlock and make our associate lives in stores, for example, better. So Walmart, nearly 100-year-old company, often based on, when I got there, books. Every store would have a book that was like the handbook of what you needed to know if you were the store manager. So really simply, we digitized those books and we put them inside the app that associates use on their phone so they could ask questions much like you ask a question to Claude or to ChatGPT. From there, we moved on to merchant tools, and we looked at how we simplify the merchant experience in terms of building contracts and negotiating with suppliers. And then that led to things like Sparky and the like. And the momentum kind of built from there. So we went from real skepticism at the beginning about what AI could do. And that still remained. Even when I left and I was talking about things like self-driving cars in San Francisco, they're like, yeah, but I'm not sure that's going to work. And I left them with these thoughts of what's going to happen at some point when humans aren't entering your stores to shop anymore, but robots are entering your stores. Oh, John, that's never going to happen. But all along, we had moved the needle and moved Walmart along in this understanding of AI. It was pretty awesome.
Yeah, amazing. Let's talk about Walmart as a customer of AI technology. So big enterprise, sure, right? When somebody from Silicon Valley, many of our startup founders were producing AI, or companies like OpenAI and Anthropic show up at Walmart on your doorstep and say, we have the latest amazing LLM, that can do all kinds of magical things. How do you evaluate technology, AI technology that's pitched to you? What are the criteria that Walmart has for selecting technology? And then how do they measure ROI on their spend?
We'll get to ROI in a second, but in terms of actually adopting the technology, it was a big challenge. So we had proven that AI was valuable and it could solve problems for customers. But there still is a lot of suspicion within Walmart about partnering with large tech companies. There's a story, you can find me afterwards, I'm not sure that it's appropriate for stage, but there's a story of Google and Walmart's interactions in early days where various things were said and done on the Google side that really caused suspicion at Walmart about if we partner deeply with a Google or an OpenAI or an Anthropic, are they just going to turn us into dumb pipes? Where does this go next? So there was this real fear about giving up what we felt was our proprietary data around what products we had, what prices we were selling them for, how long it was taking us to deliver those products, because all of this we felt like was our secret sauce. And if we worked with a Google or anybody else or a Microsoft, would we lose propriety of that data? And for a while, and if you stretch your brain back and you go back about 4 years ago, it doesn't seem that crazy. We thought, you know what, we can build these LLMs ourselves. Like, how hard is this really? Now, when we look at things like, I don't know, Claude 4.7 or whatever, where you go, okay, there's no way a third party can build that, leave that to the foundation models. But we had to learn that the hard way. And when we started running into walls, what we did with my team is we partnered closely with OpenAI, because OpenAI was one of the first partners willing to give us a siloed siloed walls, so that when we and our associates, our employees, interacted with OpenAI for our own proprietary data, we did it within these hallowed walls. And that started to allow people to experiment with, oh, this is what this technology is capable of, right? Versus, oh, this little toy that we had built off to the side can't actually do this.
I've got a couple more questions,
Yeah,
but
keep going.
if you have questions in the audience, we have some mics, so we'll take, for I think each of these panels, we'll take a couple of questions.
Yeah, please.
So let me ask you, translate that in terms of how Walmart adopted or was skeptical initially from large companies partnering with them. There are a lot of entrepreneurs in the audience here, our portfolio founders who are building startups, and many of them want to sell to a large enterprise like a Walmart. So whether it's Walmart or your experience with other large companies, what advice would you give to these founders when they approach a large customer for buying their technology? What should they be doing?
I'll start with one that's kind of blunt. Don't start with a Walmart, right? If you go to the very biggest companies, the top companies out there, unless you really solve their problems and deliver for them 110%, you will probably burn your teams out trying to get there. So I would start smaller, and I would build up. I don't know how many people have come to me asking me, hey, I'm a startup founder, how do I get this in front of Walmart? And my advice to them has been very much the same. Prove that you can do this elsewhere. Bring that verifiable proof back, and then almost slowly climb the ladder until you get to a company like Walmart. As much as Walmart also has suspicion of the tech companies, Walmart should also be seen suspiciously as well, because like any profitable company out there, they want to get the most from you. And they don't, there's a growing understanding of Silicon Valley, but not all of the hiccups that we have in early days.
Just to give credit to Walmart, Gautam, I'm not sure if he's here in the audience yet, but Gatek, one of our companies that we mentioned before, Walmart was an early adopter of self-driving trucks. And in Arkansas, Arkansas has approved, one of the 4 states in the US that's approved autonomous trucks, and have been great customers for Gatek.
It's a great success story, and we can contrast it just to kind of keep us even keeled here a little bit with how much Walmart thought that autonomous checkout was going to solve a lot of their labor problems. So there was a deep investment that we did across Walmart on autonomous checkout. We built a lot of the technology ourselves, and in fact, we got close in a lot of ways. But if you then think about that, scaling that to the thousands upon thousands of stores they have, 100,000 square feet each, there's no way that the technology would actually work flawlessly in a way that you could, at least today, reduce that headcount. So this is, you both see these success stories with early days, but you also see companies that have tried very, very hard where it's failed as well.
Yeah. Two quick questions for you. Putting your, not just your Walmart hat, but your other hats as well, through all these experiences you've had. Tell us about privacy and the average American, the Walmart customer. How much do they care about privacy? And in this age of AI, is privacy really going to be a consideration for users in terms of adopting AI products?
That's a hard one to think through. I think every human ultimately cares about privacy. But again, it's traded off with how much are these tools just improving my life and reducing my friction. So as we're showing more and more, and not just to the folks here in San Francisco or the Bay Area, but across the globe, how AI can help you get more done with less. It's the 10x multiplier, the 100x multiplier, whatever you think of. I think folks are willing to look the other way, or at least not worry so much about privacy as they might. That said, the second we see, a major blunder or slip up and everybody's data gets leaked from an Anthropic or what have you, I think folks will retrench and will react a lot. But I think the privacy story is settling down to some degree.
Okay, so flip side of privacy is advertising. You built one of the best ad model on the internet at Google, and there's a lot of talk about ads in LLMs, ads for AI, because ultimately people don't want to pay $200 a month. You might have to make it affordable. So what's your take on what does the ad model look like for AI?
I think it's been a fascinating thing to watch, right? I think one of the things that I've been really surprised by was, when OpenAI ChatGPT announced, we're going to put a buy button inside ChatGPT. I thought to myself, really? Is it, like 1999 again? Like, is this eBay? What's going on? And then Walmart jumped in pretty quickly, and I thought, this is crazy. They were just super worried about how their data would leak, and now it's like, no, we'll put our stuff in there, you put a buy button, send people, it's going to be great. How long did it last? Does anybody know? 3 months, 6 months, something like that? And where are we now? We're kind of back to some of the same old models that we've had in the past. So I think we've seen this time and time again. We saw it in the .com, we saw it in mobile, we're now seeing it in AI. But I do think there's an unlock, and I think the unlock is actually something that we started working on at Google years and years ago, which is instead of what's the new ad format or how are we going to automate ads, which is all things that artificial intelligence is doing, we're moving to a world in which what people really care about is outcomes. What I used to call at Google transactions. I no longer want to, this is when I was running the shopping and travel teams at Google, I said I no longer want to lead people to an intermediary site or something just so that they can click again and then end up doing the purchase. Instead, when I'm on Google and I say something like, hey Google, I need more paper towels, you've got all my credentials, you know who I shop with, why don't you just take care of it? So we're seeing this in the SaaS businesses today. I think we're going to see this more and more in consumer businesses. I think we're pivoting to a pay-for-outcome type model. And in that world, I think it suddenly fits, this notion of advertising suddenly fits within the framework of AI, of ChatGPT, of LLMs that we've been building. Where I'm a little bit perplexed by it, but still seeing some vestiges of it is, we can help you boost your own brand within, whether it's ChatGPT, Claude, et cetera. To me, as a user, I see these tools as neutral. They're going to give me the right answer regardless, and they won't be influenced by promotion. But if you do tasks for me and you get them done and get them done well, that, I think, is the unit of economic value in the future.
Great. Are there any questions in the audience? I'll have one more question.
Everybody's quiet.
All right, last call for questions. Okay. You've been involved now with a lot of startups, advising them, I think maybe doing your own. What are you most excited about in the next few years, as all the stuff we talked about earlier? What is the one thing that if you could do that would be like your dream come true?
Well, that's a great question. I think more and more what we are seeing is an agentic world where these agents can actually bring context together, not just for me, but for my entire team. It helps us stay on the same page, it helps us align, but ultimately it's gonna help us take action and get things done at a scale 10x our team, 100x our team. So I'm working with a small set of founders. We're working on multiplayer AI workspaces for revenue operations teams. I mean, it's so obvious. You can bring together and consolidate all of this information in a single context. The entire team can then be aligned around that context, and then you can take actions based on what you're seeing. I have not had, and I told Cable this when we were meeting a couple months ago, I haven't had this much fun building and playing with technology in like 20, 30 years. It brings me back to when I was a kid. The capabilities that we have to build and to build complex software. These are no longer prototypes. I'm blown away by how I can sit down in front of Claude Code on the command line and build solutions, technology that really boggles my brain. There's no way I had the ability to code this stuff even 2-3 years ago. Now it's no problem. Back to what you were saying about Gen Z and the kids being all right, I still think you want engineering mindsets and you want to think like Lego blocks and figure out how all this stuff fits together. But you no longer have to worry about all of the trudgery of the syntax and bringing, actually writing code. That is going to make it so much faster for everybody to build software. The cost of building software is effectively going to zero. I think the challenge in the future for product managers and the like is going to be what not to build, what not to ship, right, rather than what to ship. And so I'm really excited about the future. I'm excited about this multi-agentic future, but I'm excited about bringing it to life in a way that teams continue to stay human, aligned, and collaborative.
Amazing. Thank you, John.
Thank you.